Okay, so we've got a couple that are looking at buying a house. And the question is asking you for a number of different pieces, A through G. So I'm going to break down the questions the way that they're listed in the regular problem. And A asks you to start off by finding the down payment. So if I'm looking for the relevant information within the question, this is what I need. So I need the sale price of the house, and I need the fact that the bank is currently requiring a 15% down payment. So the down payment is 15% of $116,500. So remember from your textbook and from other example problems that first thing you need to do is convert that percent into a decimal. So there's that imaginary decimal there at the end. You're going to move it over 2 places to the left. So 15% becomes 0.15. Of is a code word for multiplication. And $116,500. So you're going to multiply 0.15 times $116,500. And when you do, you get $17,475. So your answer to part A, what is going to be the required down payment, is $17,475. Part B now asks you to determine the cost of 3 points. The first piece of information you need in order to figure out how much those points are going to be is that you have to take the sale price and you're going to subtract out the down payment, because that is going to give you the amount that you will actually be paying for your mortgage. So you take $116,500, subtract out the $17,475 that we got for the down payment in part A, and we end up with a mortgage amount of $99,025. So it's that mortgage amount that is going to be used to base your points on. Now, 1 point equals 1%. So because the question tells us that the bank requires a payment of 3 points, that means in this case that it's going to be 3%. So we need to find out what is 3% of that mortgage price. So that $99,025. Remember to convert that percent into a decimal. You move the decimal over 2 places to the left. However, this time you don't have a second number, so you're going to have to add a 0 there as a placeholder. So 3% written as a decimal is 0.03. We're going to convert that word of into the multiplication that it represents in $99,025. So if we multiply $99,025 times 0.03, we get $2,970.75. But I believe the directions in the problem tell you to round to the nearest dollar. So if we do that, that means it'll be $2,971. So the price of 3 points, the answer to part B, is $2,971. Part C asks you to determine what 28% of their adjusted monthly income is. Probably related to this portion right here is that the bank will approve their loan if the principal, property taxes, homeowners, and all that stuff is less than or equal to 28% of their adjusted monthly income. So that's why we need to figure that part out. So that means we need to figure out 28% of their income. And so we've got to figure out what the heck their income is, right? And it's important to note here that it says they're adjusted. I should have included that. Okay, their adjusted income, because it does give you here a gross monthly income. Now that gross monthly income is their income before you account for all the other things that they have for expenses. So that means that we're going to need to take that gross monthly income, so that $5,150, and we are going to need to subtract out the $420 that it tells us in the problem they pay for their car, their boat, and their furniture. So that adjusted income, okay, so the amount of money that they have after you take their gross income and take out their expenses is $4,730. So now that we know what that adjusted income is, now we can calculate 28% of it. So it's 28% of 4,730. We know by now that this converts to a decimal, so that's 0.28. We're going to multiply by 4,730, which gives us 1,324.4. And it does tell you in the directions to round to the nearest dollar. So that means that this will be rounded to $1,324. So 28% of their adjusted monthly income is $1,324. Now part D is asking us to determine the monthly payments of principal and interest for a 20-year loan. So remember that we need to use the formula right here. So let's figure out what pieces of information are that we are going to substitute into the formula. First of all, the P is the amount of the principal, and the amount of the principal is the amount that they are actually financing, so the actual amount of the mortgage that they're going to be financing. So I'm going to substitute P for that mortgage amount. And you'll recall from the previous problem that P, or the principal amount, is $99,025. So I'm replacing the P with $99,025. There isn't another P in the formula, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the R for the rate. And that R, that rate, needs to be in decimal form. So, because the interest rate, which I see up here in the problem, is 10%, as a decimal, that will be 0.10. The N in the formula is the number of mortgage payments per year. Obviously, you pay your mortgage every month, so that means that N is going to be replaced with a 12, because there are 12 months in a year, which means that you're going to make 12 mortgage payments. So I've substituted everything into the top. In the denominator, or the bottom of the formula, that 1 simply just is still a 1. So 1 minus, let me put my parentheses a little neater here, open parentheses, 1 plus, again, I'm replacing that R with a 0.10. I'm replacing that N with a 12. I'm going to close those parentheses. And it's all going to be raised to a power. That's what these two little numbers in the formula, those exponents that are hanging out there to the side. So the N, of course, again, we know that that N, number of payments, is 12. And that is a negative sign in front of that N. So it's going to be negative 12. For those of you who aren't familiar, that little dot right there in between the N and the T means multiplication. So I'm just going to transfer multiplication little dot right there. And the last thing we need to do is the T. And the T is the amount of T for time in years. So in this case, it's going to be 20. So if you've substituted everything in here correctly, I'm going to follow good practice and I'm going to double check and make sure that I substituted everything in right. All right, so I have substituted everything in there, and I believe that I've double checked. I think I've got everything right. Yep, so I did double check and I've got everything in there correct. Now I do have another video to kind of help you, to walk you through a little bit of how you could do a formula like this that's a little bit more complicated without having to worry about rounding. So if you need to see that video, please make sure that you check that out. I'm just going to go ahead and finish working the problem. And if I put everything in there correctly, I got 955.61268. It goes on and on and on. But of course, I am talking about money, which means that I am going to round to the second decimal place, because of course that's how many decimal places are in money. So this is $955.61. So their mortgage payment, the answer to, and again, if you need a more broken down example for how I did like all that math on a little bit more complicated, or on a calculator, I've got a video about that too, so check that out. But in the meantime, I've just answered part D, which is that their monthly payment is $955.61. Sorry for the weird pause there for a second, guys. My husband kept calling me in the middle. Okay, so part E is asking, determine the monthly payment, including homeowners insurance and taxes. So I'm going to use, first of all, the actual mortgage payment. Oops. I'm going to write it a little more neatly. So I'm going to add together the mortgage that we calculated in the previous step, plus the homeowner's insurance, plus the taxes. And all of that will give us our total payment. So the mortgage, of course, is $955.61. We got that from the previous problem. Now, for the insurance and taxes part, what is a really common mistake that people make, I'm writing this in red because I'm getting ready to do something wrong, okay, is that they see the taxes up here is $1,500, and then they see that, oh, I'm sorry, I just put that in the wrong spot, didn't I? They see that the insurance is $350, and then they add the $1,500 for taxes. Okay, notice that in the problem, it tells you that is how much they pay, not every month, that is how much they pay per year. So if you add together the $350 and the $1,500 the way they are right now, you're adding too much, because that is what they would pay per year, not how much you would pay every single month. So what you need to do instead is you are going to still use that mortgage payment of $955, but you're going to take that $1,500 and that $350, and you're going to add them together, and then you're going to divide by 12, because there are obviously 12 months in a year. So you're going to do $1,850, which is what you would get if you add those together, divide by 12, and then add that to the $955.61. If I add those together, I get a total of $1,109, and then it's like 77667. It goes on and on. But because we're rounding to, we're using money, so we're going to round to the second decimal place. So if it's rounded, that means that my final answer is still $1,109, but I'm going to round that up to 78 cents. So the total amount, so my answer for part E, the total monthly payment, including my homeowner's insurance and taxes, is $1,109.78. Okay, part F is asking you to determine if the couple will qualify for the loan. Remember that it says that they'll qualify if their payment, including the taxes, homeowners, all of that, is less than or equal to 28% of their adjusted monthly income. So the reason that we answered all those other previous questions is to set us up for answering that question. So remember we figured out what 28% of their income was back in part C, and we found that 28% of their income was $1,324. And again, that was what we got back in part C, where we figured out that 28% of their adjusted income. So as long as their house payment, including their property taxes and insurance and mortgage, is less than $1,324, we're all good. Well, we just found out in part E, right, just a second ago, that the payment, everything added together, comes to $1,109.78. So they will qualify. Because the payment that we figured out of $1,109.78 is in fact less than 28% of their income, which was $1,324. Finally, we're almost done, guys. I know this question is doing a lot. Part G says how much of the first payment on the loan is applied to the principal. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to determine how much interest did we pay. And we're going to do that by using the simple interest formula. Remember, that's I is equal to PRT. So I stands for interest. We know that P stands for principal. Again, we use the mortgaged amount. So that was the sale price minus the down payment that we put down. So P, principal, is $99,025. R for rate is that percentage in the form of a decimal. So that'll be 0.10. And remember that the T for time is actually in years. So because we're just trying to figure out for 1 month, okay, because we're talking about the first monthly payment, in terms of years, that's going to be 1 out of 12 because it's only 1 month out of the 12 months. And T represents the number of time, the amount of time in years. 1 month is 1/12 of a year. So if we do all of that figure and we multiply 99,025 by 0.10 times 1/12, we end up with 825.208, and then threes, it keeps going, okay? Because we're talking about money. Of course, we are rounding to that second decimal place. So the amount of interest rounds to $825.21. So that is just the amount of interest alone that they paid on the first month. Now the question is saying, now we're not done yet, because the question says how much of the first payment on the loan. Oh, sorry guys, I just got interrupted. My husband called me again in the middle of this, and it interrupts the recording on my video. But I've already made this video for 19 minutes, so I am not starting over again. So let me see if I can remember where I just was. Oh yeah, so remember back here we found, so step 1 is we had to find the amount of interest, and we did that using the simple interest formula. But the question says how much of the first payment on the loan is applied to the principal. So remember from back when we did part A, part A asked us to find, oh no, that's not true. Which part? Oh, it was part D. Sorry about that. Part D is when we found out what the monthly payment was. So the monthly payment and then we need to subtract the interest. Because if we subtract out the interest, that is going to tell us how much is left over to actually go to the principal. So the monthly payment, which we just which again we found in part D, we found that that was $955.61. And we just calculated the interest from that payment is $825.21. So obviously, this is, and a little bit sad, right? Because we know that after you subtract out that interest, not a lot of this payment is going towards the actual paying off the principal of the house. If you do that subtraction, you're going to see that you get $130.40. So out of that entire house payment of $955, only $130.40 is actually going towards paying down the actual mortgage. The vast majority of it, that $825.21, is just going for interest on the loan. And there you have it, parts A through G.